everybody. Welcome to OnPodcast, the On Microsoft podcast, the only podcast around Microsoft where we talk about only Microsoft things on this podcast. Ooh, I think I got a couple more in there than last week. Yeah, we are again here with another jam-packed podcast full of information and a great interview we got coming up. So we'll just jump right into it.
Yeah, this week we're planning to interview a web developer. Her name is Heather Valencia. So that will be the bulk of our show today. She's the face behind the new look of on Microsoft. So we'll be chatting with her about a few things, like what went into her development journey, how did she get where she is, the tools she uses, her thoughts on tech, and the whole shebang. But after Heather, we also have a jam-packed episode where we'll talk about everything Windows. We're talking about Windows 10X, and I know you had a chance to install the new latest Windows Insider build and play with some new stuff.
Yeah, there's about two big highlights and a couple other, second tier features that we'll go through. Aside from that, we will also be talking about, make sure I got everything in here, the delay. Just like I was delaying, we have a Windows 10X delay update that might be important for those of you who were kind of hoping and expecting to see it soon.
And you forgot the most important thing, which everyone on Twitter has been talking about. All the influencers. I saw MKBHD and iJustine talking about it, which is Intel's new ads, which pit Mac against PC with Apple's own Mac guy.
I know we should probably should just scrap the interview and just you and I go back and forth about how we feel about this. But yeah, we'll jump into his backstabbing betrayal, and maybe we hope we can get an interview with him, or maybe the guy from Verizon who did the same thing. Who knows?
And then also we have the week ahead. There's some stuff coming up on for Xbox next week, and we'll just preview what we expect coming out of Xbox. And our own Laurent, he is reviewing the new Xbox wireless headset. So we'll be teasing his review. And other than that, we do have some other Aukey reviews coming up, and we'll talk about that as well. And unless you have anything else to add.
Yeah, we always have a hardware section that we always get new stuff in. So I will tease what we're going to be, or at least I'm going to be writing about and reviewing. And then we'll also talk about Xbox's new hire. We'll briefly touch on that and see how that plays out in the coming weeks. But aside from that, that's our podcast in a nutshell. So we will jump right into it.
Yeah, get us started and tell us about who our first guest is.
I'm going to let you do that because I've spoken with her at just a little bit less than you have. But you know about her more than I do.
Yeah, so our guest her name is Heather Valencia, and she is a web developer, and she worked with our editor in chief Kip on the redesign for on Microsoft, and she has her own website where she describes her work, and we'll have the link in the description and in the chat so you could check her out. Well, yeah, we'll have her join the show right about now, and we'll get started with our interview.
Like magic.
All right, so let me get started here. Let me just pull up the list of questions. So we already told everyone that your name is Heather Valencia. Other than your name, they don't know your story and who you are and how you got to where you are. So can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your journey to get where you are today, which is designing these fabulous and these beautiful websites?
And I noticed you asked that question kind of twice, but a little differently in numbers
Yeah.
1 and 3, right?
Yeah.
So, and when you say the word journey in your question, that kind of opens up, to me actually telling you a bit about how I got into it, right?
Yeah.
So, and I was in, foster care, and I was also going through a lot of things. And I also did some alternative classes during that time where I actually learned some graphic design. I didn't have a lot of exposure to computers like a lot of people did when they were growing up. The most I got from computers was going to my friend's house sometimes and seeing them play on the computer, or me going to the library and playing on the computer there. When I did the alternative classes, I was always really good at it. So one of the alternative classes was when Photoshop kind of first came out.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was like one of the first few versions, but one of the things I did enjoy doing, even though I was exceptional at that class, I was always at the top of the class, I also enjoyed trying to do things I wasn't supposed to do, like try to break into the, try to get into the internet. How they would block the internet. Somehow I would figure out how to get past that and play on the internet after I did my work. But at the age of 18, right? So I'm living in a crack house here in Spokane, and it's like a crack house apartment. It's not like a house, even though I did live in one of those too. My very first computer was stolen. So my neighbor was a drug dealer. His name was Evil. And despite his name, he was really good to me. And he always protected me, my daughter. So, and he came by one time, he noticed that all we had to sleep with in my apartment was I had a box of clothes and an air mattress. That's all me and my kid had. He gave me $100 one time just to go get blankets because he felt so sorry for us. So I was looking through the paper one day and I saw this job that said, we're looking for somebody who knows computers. And I said, okay, cool. I'll tell these people I know computers. Of course I know computers. I'll figure it out. So, and it just so happened that they were like right down the road. So I could walk down there and introduce myself and say, hey, what you need, I'll figure it out. And that's exactly what I did. And my boss was really cool. He realized that I was kind of young and I didn't know a whole lot of stuff. So he decided to take me under his wing and he taught me the power of sales. He taught me how to design kitchens, how to, read blueprints, how to do whole house sales and things like that. And then I also taught myself how to do the computer. And I taught myself how to make a website. And I taught everyone in that place how to use some software, which is called 2020 Kitchen Design Software, that I taught myself how to use. So none of these people knew how to use it. Some salesman came in there, gave it to me. I figured it out. And he showed me how to make a kitchen. And then I started showing everyone else how to do it. So, and then that website that I built for them was my very first site I made with Yahoo Site Builder back in the day.
Wow. So this was a long time ago.
Yes, it was a long time ago. So, although at that time, I didn't know web design was something I even wanted to do. I just, was like, okay, I built a site, drag and dropping it. And actually, back in the day, I made a really good site for what I did. And I had fun with it. So, I had got to a point where I didn't have to live in the crack house anymore because I was making pretty good money as a salesperson and making these big fancy kitchens. And, I made enough money to get to a nicer crack house. And then after that, I got to a nicer actual real apartment, apartment that had mirror walls and a little fireplace and stuff. And then I met my husband at that time. So it's like maybe 19 or something around that time. Well, then I had a normal life, right? So now that I had this normal life, me and my daughter and my new husband, I had decided, I'm tired of making kitchens. I was designing kitchens. I was doing sprinkler systems. I was doing, siding, windows, doors. I can bid a whole house for all that stuff. The education stuff. So I had this hunger for education because 6th grade was the last grade I kind of completed. I didn't go past that. I didn't really go to high school at all. So I had this hunger to learn something. And I also knew that I had to survive because I had always tried to survive from the age of 13. Everything that I did was, and when you're young, that stuff just, just time, you just do it. You don't really think about it. You just do what you need to do. So I knew I had a hunger for education. And I'm sorry, I know I said that twice, but, and I knew I had to do something because if my husband passed away or if we divorced or something, I knew I needed an education because education is powerful, right? It gives you something to the foundation, right?
So this was always something that you had a passion for, which is why you gave it your best output and make quality websites, right?
Actually, I went to college and I said to myself, well, I'm going to do a paralegal class because I thought, well, anything in the law is always going to be around because law has been around since the dawn of time, right? Well, my first 2 terms, My first 2 terms, I was in paralegal classes and I was getting 4.0s. I was very good at it. I was very good at looking at the law. And I'll tell you what, you ask me something about anybody, I can look them up. So I know a lot. I know a lot of the tools and everything that they use. So, but there was something about being in those classes with the women. Unfortunately, that they were all women. There were no men that I saw, but they were all very drab and very just boring to be around. They're also quiet. They kept to themselves. And I just remember being there one day. I remember this day very specifically. I was in class. Everyone had their heads down. We're all at this table where we're sitting together. Nobody's talking to each other. Nobody's smiling. Everyone's just on something. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I don't know if I want to spend the rest of my life with people like this. And then lawyers on top of it. I don't know. So I left that class that day. And that same day that I'm feeling that way, I walked by and out of the corner out of my eye, I see a classroom where all the kids were just laughing and smiling and joking with the teacher. And it just so happened one of the teachers came out of the classroom during that time, and I stopped him. I said, hey, I said, what is that class? And he said, well, that's software development. I said, so you can make money doing that? And he said, yeah, you can make a lot of money doing that. And I said, cool, sign me up. Can I change what I'm doing and do that? And he said, yeah, I'm going to take it. He took me in his room. He helped me change my course from the paralegal to that. And I did that ever since. And
Wow.
although I'm not the strongest programmer, I am not. I am good at design. I am good at programming. I'm good at business. I'm good at sales. I can be pretty good with communication sometimes. But I'm not super great at everything. But what I'm good at is managing everything, right? I know good design and I know good programming without having to be that person all the time. So I'm really good at project managing.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I think it could be more valuable than someone who's I mean, it's always that phrase, the jack of all trades kind of thing, master of none. And everyone always stops it at that, but it usually the rest of it basically goes on to say someone who's better at a bunch of little things versus hyper focused on one thing is usually more valuable than the person who's hyper focused at one thing. So I think it's always good to know a bunch and be able to kind of manage all of that information, all that input at the same time. Which kind of leads me on to my next question, which was, um, since you've had such, a long kind of history, thing about, web development and whatnot, are there some things that, just like off the top of your head, things that people should know who are either going to get into web development or who are looking for web developers that they should know kind of so that they don't get taken, so to speak, like phrases, terms, common knowledge, or, pricing, just business-minded things that you can kind of rattle off saying like, hey, you should look for these things, or you should know a web developer who knows this, or they should focus on SEO for this much, or stuff like that.
so what a lot of people don't realize is, first of all, web design, web development, programming, SEO, marketing, those are all very specific jobs that almost really need individual people to be focusing on them. When you get one person spreading themselves thin, trying to do all that, the quality of the work, it shows. It's not always going to be great. It's not that it's impossible that one person can do all that. They most certainly can. But how much other work are they taking on? So that is one thing you want to be able to find yourself, whether you're better at one thing or the other, or if you're good enough to manage whole products and manage teams to do those things or do them yourself. So a lot of people.
So would you recommend anybody who's looking for web design, not cut, they basically for people to understand and farm out exactly what they need before they come to you saying like, oh, can you do marketing? Oh, and if you can do marketing, can you do web design? If you can do web design, can you do web? I mean, that just, it seems like asking a lot of one
Yeah,
person. So you're saying know what you want before you seek somebody else.
Well, Now, if you're talking from the client standpoint, I thought you were
Right, from the
talking from
client.
a student.
We'll
or
start
something.
with the client first, and then we'll work our way back to all the
Well,
specifics of what you do.
a client isn't as educated in the field as the average person. So I try my best to explain to clients what I just kind of explained.
Okay.
But really, I don't. I really don't, unless it seems like it's needed. So the average client for me, they're usually in a more affordable price point. And they usually just need, a basic website design and nice structure and development, which is easy enough for a lot of people to do. And that's why there's a lot of freelance web developers out there. So when they come to me and I realize they need something very basic or, even maybe a little complex for their business, I let them, know, hey, I can do this and that and the other thing. But once they start getting into all these features, and they're like, hey, I'm going to be on social media. Hey, I'm going to do marketing. Hey, I'm going to do SEO. That's where I have to stop them in their track and say, hey, that's cool and all, but I hope you have the money because it costs a lot of money.
Right.
So I do tend to try and educate them before, a lot of people will call me and they'll, sometimes they don't even need a website. I'm really honest with people. It's like, I had a lawyer call me the other day and he says he's retiring in 2 years and he's had the same 1992 website forever. And he's like, well, I'm retiring in 2 years. And I said, well, he's like, can you just change a few things or make the whole website new? And I was like, I can make the website new, but it's not going to do anything for you other than look pretty. And it's like, you mean you could spend this amount of money or this amount of money? It's up to you. And I said, but if you plan on retiring and you don't need the website to do anything for you, it's not going to make a huge difference. If you want to spend the money for it to look nice, cool, but you don't need it. And I think clients like me because I'm honest with them like that. So that's how I tend to get a lot of clients because a lot of clients trust me. I mean, in the 15 or so years I've been doing this, a lot of people, there's only been 2 or 3 people that I had maybe a confrontation with. And if I remember correctly, it was all SEO misinformation stuff. SEO misinformation. And all SEOs will tell you, people come to you thinking that you're going to do some kind of magic and it's going to happen overnight, and it doesn't happen that way. So
that actually, again, segues into what I was going to say. We're going to talk about from your side, your perspective. And I know that one of your strengths happens to be SEO. So could you maybe talk about SEO, what people who are aspiring to do what you do should know about SEO?
So I'll tell you how I started SEO. So when I got out of school and I graduated, there was a small percentage of students who graduated that class. And that's because it's a hard class to pass. But I was determined to pass it, and I did. I was on the President's Honor Roll almost every quarter. And, thank you. I tried.
Yeah.
I tried.
Yes, congratulations.
I
That's
tried.
awesome.
But here's the thing, though. What I found out is that I tried to apply for some jobs, and nobody wanted to hire me. They said, well, we want someone we don't have to train. We don't want someone right out of school. And I didn't understand it at the time. I understand it now. I do. But at the time, I didn't. So I said, okay, whatever. I'll start my own business. And I had realized at that time the importance of coming up in Google for Spokane web designer. That's where I'm from, Spokane. So it took me an entire year. And this is what I tell people who email me. I get a lot of students emailing me asking, hey, how do you get clients? How do you do this and that? And I tell them the same thing every time. This is what happened when I try to get work or get clients, is that I spent an entire year studying SEO that they didn't teach me in school. I had to teach myself. I had to get a different job. I was a supervisor for troubled teens for a year. And on my free time, I did the SEO, and I also went door to door, face to face to businesses, probably 10 a week I would do. And I would introduce myself. And I would try to get work that way. And I did get work that way. I cold called ugly websites I found on the internet. And I said, hey, look, this website's ugly. Would you like me to redo it for, this amount of money? And I got jobs that way. After 1 year of doing that, I've been at the top of Google for Spokane web designer, Spokane website design, quite a few, not just local keywords, but national keywords and international keywords. For the last 15 years, I maintained a first page position for a lot of keywords. It may not always stay that way, and that's okay. You know, I realize things change all the time, but it just so happened that it has stayed. And I've been very lucky for that because there's a lot of competition out there, right? But that is, after that year, I never had to step foot out of my door again. And because of that, my school was very impressed. So I had started my own business. Other firms around Spokane finally noticed this new web designer and started calling me up. Said, hey, Heather, we want to know if you would come out here and do some work for us, contract for us. Because I'm already busy, okay? I already went and got my own work now. You guys are too late. That was a whole year ago. But what was I saying? I lose track of what I'm saying.
You're saying your school is impressed, and now...
Oh, my school is impressed, and they actually used me as a promotion for the college. So you know how sometimes they will choose a student who is, you know, the star student. So they put me on all the billboards all over the city, and they put me on all the postcards that go in everyone's mailbox. So I got some work that way too, because people saw it in their mailbox and they said, "Hey, you're the girl on the postcard." And I said, "Oh, that's me."
Well, I
So,
mean, and you know,
SEO is not easy, and you have to do it all the time. It's nonstop. I mean, I've been doing it since that day, okay? It ain't easy. And I'll tell you what, I don't stay on it all the time, but if I don't stay on it, I'm going to drop.
okay.
So,
And for those, you know, I'm just going to kind of give a brief search engine optimization is what we're talking about. Are there, you know, just maybe one or two, maybe three top things that you would say for anybody who has a website right now that is, you know, on the third page bottom? Yeah. Is there anything that they should look into as far as like backlinking, meta tags, things like that for their website to maybe get them started so that they can bring you something that would be easy to work with later on?
well, I don't do SEO full time.
Okay.
I should, but I enjoy making the websites a little better. SEO is very tedious work.
Right.
And it's honestly, it's boring. I mean, you're looking at words all day and modifying things on a website is boring work. And that's why they get paid a lot of money, because not only do they have to do with boring, tedious work, it's just constant monitoring. And it's and there's risk to it. And the big risk is someone's paying you to get them results. And if they don't get results, that's on your reputation. As hard as you could try, it's possible you might not do good for them. Now, fortunately, me just redeveloping someone's site, if they come to me and they say, "Hey, Heather, I want these types of keywords," what I do is I say, well, first of all, you know, you can have whatever keyword you want to rank for all day long. But if you get someone to your site and you want them to do something and the site looks ugly, there's less of a chance that they're going to call you, you know, based off of just the site not looking the way that it should, right? That's not always true though either. That's not always true, because sometimes there are some ugly sites and they get the most traffic. And it's what it's a matter of. And I try to tell people, don't worry about SEO. Worry about content. Worry about what you're telling the audience and that it's interesting. Because if you don't make it interesting, you can have your SEO, you know, going green 100 according to some SEO plugin on every page on your site, and it could be the most boring content in the world. Nobody wants to read, don't matter. So practice making engaging content that people want to read, people want to watch, and that's all you need to worry about. You don't always have to worry about keywords. Now, there are some tips and tricks though. You can do something called long tail SEO keywords. So instead of trying to focus on, I don't know, give me an example, because I don't want to just pick one out of thin air. What's an example of something you want to sell?
Microsoft Surface. Microsoft Surface.
Surface is that tablet thing, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So instead of trying to rank for, if I'm a retailer trying to rank for Microsoft Surface, maybe I could try and rank for Microsoft Surface near me. I mean, that's not a really great example, but
I mean, I do SEM, so I would basically pay for keywords that would be like cheap Microsoft Surface in Spokane or
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like that. Perfect. You could be an SEO. See? So,
I don't know. SEO is just as stressful, if not more.
it is.
He's a great podcast host. We can't lose him just yet.
I'm not going anywhere. Well, I mean, thank you for that and letting people know again, content people. So you could pay for some help, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what it is you're selling, talking about, interested in. And I guess going to my next question is, I know you're probably a Mac person. A lot of people are. Is there anything in your web development that you take into consideration when making a site, better, more functional, like operating systems or browsers or plugins, things like that of that nature that people should at least know about?
First thing I tell people is y'all need to upgrade all your stuff because I'm not making a website. Some old computers. These people are using square computers. I'm not making no computer to fit that square computer. First of all,
Right.
no, I'm not doing it. But no. So okay. So what I do is I do WordPress development. I do custom software development on the side, and that is with one of my programming partners. The custom software development is done on PHP web apps, but it is very different from what I personally do every day, all day, and that is WordPress. So with WordPress, there is something that's really cool about it. So there's these things called themes. So you could be a developer that makes his own theme, or you could be a developer that uses themes that people all over the world use. The reason I use the themes that are built by other developers is because when I let my clients go, I'm not going to constantly update my own themes, but the company's will. So my clients are in good hands because I know that the theme that they're using is going to be constantly updated as WordPress updates, as people's computers updates, as browsers updates, and it will stay up to date. Just like the OnMicrosoft website. It's using a theme called GeneratePress, which is a huge performance-friendly theme for WordPress. And that was very important with your guys' website because you get a lot of traffic. So it's got a very simple design, and it is SEO friendly because it's built in a nice manner. So, and it's built in a manner that is SEO friendly. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. So I build them with WordPress and using the GeneratePress theme for your particular website. And I do use other themes for other websites because some clients, they really want to be able to do this drag and drop stuff. And programmers don't like that. And there's a reason why. It's because it gets very bloated and, makes things slow. And fortunately for you guys are very tech savvy over there. So you could handle the GeneratePress just fine.
yeah.
That would lead me into a question that I have. What are some applications and some tools that you normally use as a web developer and as a web designer? Here we're into video editing and photo editing, so we use like Photoshop and iMovie and all of those things. So what are the programs that you use yourself?
And even if it's not for just strict web development, but like management. Some people use like Trello boards and Basecamp, stuff like that to manage stuff.
So as far as design, I use Photoshop. Personally, I like using Photoshop because I'm just used to it.
Right.
And it's easier for me to throw things together. Or I hire someone to do it, and they usually use Photoshop too anyway. So if I'm not designing, developing, you can actually develop WordPress on your local computer using something called WAMP for Windows or XAMPP for a Mac. And that can help you build WordPress on your local host, on your computer, so you don't have to use a live server. But you can use a live server too. So you can use a production, is it production? Production environment. Is the word production when you actually put something out, I think? Or it's in production. I forget. Development.
Development environment.
Production is live, I think.
Yeah.
You think I would know that stuff. But yeah, so you can put it in development mode and build it live behind the scenes. And when you're done, you can put in production and show the client and show everybody. And there's a lot of hosting companies that provide a lot of tools for developers to use to be able to do those things. So more often than not, you'll find a lot of developers building online versus doing it on their computers. And there's a big reason for that. is because a lot of the plugins and tools don't always work properly on the local machines like they will on the servers, or they'll act differently on the servers. And they can act better or worse depending on what type of server you're on. You can be on some really poor $2 server, you can be on some really nice $30 server, right? So that's all.
Okay.
Yeah, the server environment will give you different tools. But other than that, WordPress is a tool in itself, and themes, they can be tools themselves, because every theme for WordPress is developed so differently. You get one theme and drag and drop stuff all over the place and build a website so differently, and other ones you can inject things to create sections and sites. Kind of like Generate Press is awesome because you can just inject stuff to put stuff in there, and it makes it more performance friendly. Genesis Themes is another great one that's performance friendly and does that. So it's more of a skeleton framework. So you got what's called skeleton frameworks, or that's what I call them. I don't know who calls them what, but I call them skeleton frameworks. And then you got frameworks that are drag and drop builders. And then you got things called child themes. They're kind of like the clothes for these themes. So you can get some pre-designed clothes from other people who pre-designed some clothes for you, or looks of what the website would be, or you can design it yourself, which is what I end up doing sometimes too. So
That also would lead us into another question, which is, what is your favorite piece of professional, creative, or consumption software?
Okay, I got a few of them. I'm going to tell you them, all right? So my first favorite luxury software is the NES system software, because I love an original Nintendo. I play Gradius, nice. And I will, have a little drink and jump up and down and get angry at the TV. And I like playing that game because when I feel like being done, I just shut it off, right? It's not like these games they make on the Xbox, everybody, where you got to spend hours and hours and days playing a game. I just like
that's you, Lauren.
I just like to turn it on, play, and then go. That's what I like to do. So the NES is awesome software for the NES system, right?
Yeah, I find myself doing that too now that I have two kids. I don't have time to sit for hours. I can sit for maybe 15 minutes before one of them hurts themselves. So I like to play real quick too.
Well, you know what? Kids love the Nintendo Entertainment System as well. They love playing that. They like Ninja Turtles. They like Super Mario. They like it just as much as they like any of them fancy games. I mean, I like the new fancy games too. But another one, financial software. I think that is one of the greatest inventions known to man since the day of the internet, right? Because I can go in and I can see where all my money is going. Like, a few years ago, I was making fun of my friends because why do you guys buy coffee so much? You guys so much coffee, you spend so much coffee on stuff. And at the end of the year when I was doing my taxes, I wanted to see how much I spent at coffee shops. So I went and took all the coffee places. And I didn't think I spent as much. I had spent $400 a year on coffee. Wow. Just going out for coffee, not buying home coffee.
And
so
I will tell you this, having done that too, because I did an Excel project like that. Mm-hmm. You were on the cheap end of that. If I can bring up my wife's tab.
That's what I thought. And I'm like, $400, that is not cheap to me. What was your wife's?
I don't know. She's gonna kill me if I mention it.
It
was definitely more than 400.
Oh.
For the year.
Okay. And another one I have to mention because it's very important to me is it's a piece of software called Spotlight. Okay. It is developed by Ashton Kutcher and his team over at Thorn.org. Okay. And that software is highly important because that software, Ashton Kutcher took his own money because the government wouldn't give him money to build software that stops sex traffickers. And what they do is they analyze, child pornography. I don't know if they can say that on YouTube. They analyze that stuff so that they can find victims and bring them home if they can. And so that they can find perpetrators and put them behind bars. And they give this software to, police stations and other businesses that can utilize it somehow to be able to protect children. And that's really important to me, is that we're using the internet and technology to save lives and not to ruin lives, which the internet can do. And the internet is a tragic place. There's some horrible stuff on the internet. And the fact that little Ashton Kutcher brought it upon himself to make this and our own government wouldn't is astounding to me. So I think that is something that everyone should know about. Him and Demi Moore, they did a very good thing building that software.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. And I don't have any more questions, but I would like to give you a chance because I mean I want
Yeah.
this to kind of dovetail into what you were just talking about. Is there any is there any other information you would like us to know about, possible charities? I know you mentioned social work and some things like that. Is there anything that you would like our audience to kind of know about, aside from Spotlight, which we'll add some links into the show notes stuff about?
Oh, I mean, I didn't think about that. That is a trick question. Was not prepared for. But I'm gonna tell you,
That's fine.
my favorite charity is Thorn.org.
Okay.
And the way that I personally give back is Thorn has this cool thing on Amazon, and Amazon has a cool thing you can add to your browser inside Amazon. So every time you make a purchase, a portion of your purchase goes to that charity. So
Amazon
every time I buy,
Smile, I think it's named Amazon Smile. Yeah.
That's it. And I chose Thorn as one of them. So every time I make a purchase, a little bit of my money goes to them. And it's as simple as that. If you don't want to like directly go and give money to people, you can do it in small ways just like that. And anybody can donate, without realizing it. And that's a good way that they can do it. So.
Well, that's a beautiful tip and an offer, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for that, and thank you for your time and all your answers and your bubbly personality. It's awesome. We really appreciate it here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much again. You teached us very insightful things, and we appreciate it. And you could tell our viewers and our readers where they could find you if they're interested in reaching out to you.
You can find me at ravenousravendesign.com, girlwebdesigner.com. Goes to the same website. And if you'd like to hire me or just talk to me, you can do so there.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Heather. We appreciate it so much.
Yeah, and hopefully maybe we'll have you back on and we'll talk about some other things.
Okay, that sounds just fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
And we want to thank Heather again for her time and answering all of our questions and giving us some information about SEO, speeds, and what goes into web design, and just kind of a perspective. It's not always just about Windows and Microsoft, but there's a much larger world out there, and web development happens to be a big part of it. So for those of you who were listening and stay tuned, I hope you got the information out of it. And if you are a web developer or aspiring one, hope she was able to help you guys. All right. Well, again, awesome interview. But on to Windows news.
Yeah, that's what everyone is here for.
We're going to bring this to a screeching halt by saying there's a delay.
Yeah.
There's a Windows 10X delay, unfortunately. We got news middle of last week as we've kind of pitched back and forth that we think that Windows 10X, which is Microsoft answers to Chrome OS, may not be ready until later this year, according to a new report from Windows Central. I think Zach is one of the ones leading the charge on this. He's kind of been championing this since last year. It's kind of come out and saying that it could be expected to come out. He didn't say time frame, but he just said later this year. So it could be any time between summer and December 31st if Microsoft decides to wait that long. So all of this is, again, rumor and speculation because Microsoft hasn't really officially talked about Windows 10X since 2019.
Even though Pano says he's very pumped, it doesn't really mean anything about Windows 10X.
Right. He just said vaguely about Windows. And again, I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago, that I think his pumped is more about Sun Valley than it is about Windows 10X. The silence ahead of the release of the new Windows is pretty strange, though Microsoft may have some good reason to remain secretive. According to Zach Bowden over again at Windows Central, the software giant may have decided earlier this year to delay the release of its first Windows 10X devices to the second half of 2021, which could give the company and its partners more time to iron out the edges of the new operating system. If any of you have read my review of the ThinkPad X1 Fold, you'll know that there's a lot to iron out between these foldable devices and Windows 10X. If they're going to be put on those, if it's just single screen, we still have no idea what new features or designs are going to come to it. We have basically an emulator from 2 years ago that we're kind of been playing around with. So you can talk more about it if you like. But again, I kind of expected Windows 10X not to be released this year.
I was expecting it to be delayed as well because personally, I don't think they want to, because from everything we know, 10X is only for like enterprise and commercial PCs, and it's not really going to be a consumer thing. So I think maybe they're pulling back a bit so they could focus more on Sun Valley, which is the cloud with rounded corners and floating start menu and the stuff we were discussing a couple weeks ago when Zach had delete screenshots. So for me personally, I'm disappointed that 10X is delayed, but I think it's for good reason. I mean, we played with the leaked single screen version of 10X a couple of weeks ago, and it did have its own set of bugs. So for sure, it was definitely not ready. But even with 10X not being ready, they need to focus on regular Windows 10 when everyone what's already running on 1 billion devices out there. So this delay, for me, I think it could be related to Sun Valley and getting Sun Valley ready first.
Yeah. Again, Windows 10X is all speculation at this point.
Speculation.
Microsoft
Yep.
has not officially said anything about it. So as far as you know, 2019 was the last time Windows 10X has been touched by the company. They could have put it on the shelves, and we're just hoping, or there are people that are close to the matter that are hoping that it comes out this year. As far as we do know, that they have talked about Sun Valley to some extent. They've talked about the apps that'll be coming with new redesigns, and sort of what they plan to at least attack in this new visual overhaul. So again, as you mentioned, it only makes sense to focus on Sun Valley, which is on 1 billion devices, or I think Windows 10 in specific is on 500 million plus. And I think they stopped counting after they hit their marker on that. But so it just wouldn't make sense to kind of conflate like, oh, here's our new Windows 10 new design, and here's this random operating system that most of you won't see. So maybe they will get their marketing in line and start talking about it beginning of next year now that Windows 10X is done. And just from a design perspective, bring those elements over to Windows 10X, because as of right now, there's not much in the way of making Windows 10X different than what we currently have, except putting the start menu in the middle of the screen.
Another interesting thing that I totally forgot to mention was the rumor that I know the single screen version that we played with and that I played with and that everyone else played with who had the leaked file from Albacore. It doesn't include support for Win32 apps. So do you think that this delay could be like giving them more time to push like a cloud version of Windows? Maybe even include a subsystem in 10X that could work with Win32 apps, because hey, everyone is gonna want their Google Chrome.
Yeah, I think we mentioned at the end of last year, kind of coming, they were testing this kind of stuff out for the Surface Pro X, and I believe that that's going to be their prototype for ARM devices. And if this is going to be kind of their cloud / enterprise play for a Chrome OS type competitor, they got to be eyeing ARM very closely. So again, we only know that they started testing it in November of last year. So like you just said, I think they are working and kind of ironing that out to, ideally say, here's Windows 10X with Windows 10 X, with all of the design flair from Sun Valley that you all loved, plus the functionality of Chrome OS like cloud saves and cloud stores and things like that. All at once versus saying, here's this random weird operating system and we'll fix all the other stuff later. That's what they kind of did with Windows 10s.
And let's move into our third topic or segue into it, which is the Windows Insider build. I mean, I installed it and I don't have any of the features to play with, but I know.
All right, so moving on.
Yeah. Let me just bring out my MacBook and let's talk about Apple M1. No, but seriously, this is on Microsoft and a Microsoft podcast, so let me stick here and talk about this Windows Insider build.
Yeah, Windows and Windows things and things that are immediate that we can actually tangibly put our hands on. We got a new build, I believe it was Wednesday of last week, that is bringing one of the bigger features, Auto HDR for PCs, which will enable HDR visuals over 1,000 DirectX 11 and DirectX 12 games. So just you have to go and make sure your system supports those. It's updated to support those, and you should start to see. And I don't know if they give us a list of the titles in specific, but again, it will kind of just natively happen for these games. So you'll get some new contrast in your videos, a little darker blacks and a little brighter foreground colors, things like that, just to make it look a little new. Um, the other thing we got was I don't know if you kind of jump into this one, virtual
Yeah,
desktops.
virtual desktops. It's not something that I use personally, but I know you use it a lot. And basically, in this new build, it allows you to reorder and customize the backgrounds for each of your virtual desktops. And now in Task View, which is Win plus Tab, you could reorder virtual desktops by using drag and drop with your mouse. You could do a right click on a virtual desktop thumbnail or use Alt plus Shift plus left or the right arrow on your keyboard to move them around. So basically, Microsoft is putting you in control of your virtual desktops and giving you more ways to customize that experience.
Yeah, I use it a lot just to kind of separate work from other work. Basically, I do all the journalistic stuff we do here, and so I have Teams open, 5,000 browsers. We'll have OneNote open, just things like that. Photoshop for images, and then I have what I do at my day job, which is SEM. So I'll have Google Ad editors open, ad copy, tons of Excels and macros and things like that, all enabled. And I just don't like to have, kind of minimize windows and close these. So I just put them in virtual desktops and it works really well for me. And this is really cool to be kind of just, I'm learning to be more of a power user with the keyboard versus using my mouse to move things around. So the alt shifts and the alt left rights, it's super easy, super cool, super convenient. Plus, you have your gestures with the trackpad that kind of bring this all up in a exploded view, which is pretty awesome. I'm glad they're adding those. The next thing I think is our biggest one. I think people will immediately see, unlike you who didn't get it, which is the File Explorer has gotten sort of a tweak. They explain it as this big new layout. They've added padding around the spacing in between files and descriptions and titles and things like that. So you just get a little cleaner looking view. Things aren't bunched up on top of each other. You're not seeing necessarily just tags and descriptions bleeding into each other. And they say it's designed to foster better interactions with touch. So, here's for all of us who are bitching and complaining about tablet mode. Hopefully this is just
That was me. That was me, like just last week, where I wrote the whole expose and we had a great 30-minute debate about Chrome OS versus Windows 10.
Finally, they were like, you know what? Let's shut up, Arif, and quit snagging. Here's your tablet mode file explorer. Again, it's very minor, but you will notice it if you have it, just to kind of look at it, and it's really cool.
Yeah, and that's not all. There's also some other smaller things, of course. I believe that now Power Automate Desktop, it's a mouthful, and Windows Terminal are now inbox apps that will ship with the OS itself. The Notepad app, this will make Mary Jo Fowley very, very, very happy. The Notepad app is now updated via the Microsoft Store going
I don't know.
forward.
I believe her first initial tweet was "Oh no," but we'll see if she's got to come around to it.
And then it has been removed from the Windows accessory folder, so now it has its own place in the start menu. And there's even a new, and even though there's a new icon that's inspired by Microsoft's Fluent Design language as well. So these are smaller things but some things that you might notice whenever they roll out to you.
And hopefully these are signs of things to come for Sun Valley.
Yeah, and speaking of Sun Valley, I know Sun Valley is Windows 10, but Intel is going hard on Windows 10 and Windows PCs, and they released their own Mac versus PC ad, their own take on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to do our segues, Microsoft's thinking of changing Windows, and our boy who used to be a Mac guy, I believe it's Justin Long is the name of the actor, is changing from Mac to PCs. I don't think he's officially done it. I mean, I'm assuming he goes home to a Mac, but at least commercial-wise and branding, he's starring in a new Intel versus Apple advertisement you can find on YouTube. I'm sure we'll have a link in our descriptions as well. We have a couple, videos that'll probably overplay this, but this is kind of big news. It's kind of sent Twitter
Yeah, everyone was
a flutter
yeah.
because people are reading tea leaves that probably don't exist about what this means for Intel. And some people are on the side of saying that Intel's desperate, and this is why they're pulling this move. Other people are saying that Intel probably does have the upper hand as far as mind share. I mean, we always think about Macs being for the cool creatives, but again, they believe they're still less than 15% of the market, even though they've had some astounding quarter-over-quarter sales in the last couple of years, but they're still super small. So with that all being said, the commercial basically has Justin Long into a room where he kind of plays around with different devices, and what he's basically extolling is that you get a ton of variety, not only from PC makers themselves, where you get ASUS, Acer, Dell, HP, Lenovo, everybody that runs the gambit, but you also get a different variety of form factors. Say, I think he pulls out the Asus, the one with the
ZenBook Duo with the 2 screens, and he's holding it up, and he's like, "Hey, this has 2 screens, and I could ink on it and touch on it." And then he grabs the MacBook Pro, and he's like, "Oh, it has a little tiny touch bar." And then he accidentally touches the Siri button, and it says some weird, ridiculous thing, and then the commercial ends.
Yeah, it's interesting because again, these are playing to apparently an audience who's never touched computers in the last 15 years or so. Because everyone kind of knows what you get with the Mac, and everyone knows what you get with the PC. Even with the new Surfaces, within the last 7-8 years, people know that you can, use it as a tablet, attach a keyboard, things like that. It comes down to, at the end of the day, what operating system you're most comfortable with and which ecosystem you like to live in. As much as Intel would love to, I guess, squash this whole Mac One plague that's been running across the internet, the idea is that Apple's saying that you get a faster computer with more power, more performance, and Intel's been preaching that since since its inception. Like that's every year they say you get more power, more performance, and more battery and things like that. So they're both saying the same thing. You get to make your own decision at the end of the day of, hey, if you're a Mac guy and you love all the Mac stuff that comes with it, stick with Macs. If you're an Intel guy, it's very rare that you see the crossover between the two.
My
but
favorite.
We appreciate Justin Long being there.
I just want to mention my favorite ad, which I'm sure is gonna cause a stir in the comment section. But in this ad, you could see
one?
Not a what's a computer at, but let's say it's Intel's take on what's a computer at, because Justin, he has the Lenovo Yoga 9i, and then he flips it around between laptop mode and tablet mode, and then he picks up the MacBook and he's like, "Oh, it's just a laptop." And then a hand comes in from the side of the screen, and then they hand him the iPad Smart Keyboard, the Apple Pencil, and then he's like, "Oh, there's even a dongle too." And this is the commercial that really lit up Twitter, where you had all of the influencers comment on how Intel is slamming Apple hard, and you still need a dongle to use some of these new PCs anyway.
You do, but you don't necessarily need. Again, I can attest. Like if you have a Surface Pro, you don't need a separate iPad.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah. I mean, that's just, and you don't necessarily need 2 extra keyboards to run. You have your keyboard on your clamshell device, and for an iPad, if you want it to be in the Pro form and use it more than just as a consumption device, you'll need a keyboard for that as well. So I mean, there is merit to that. I don't think anybody's, again, like I said, no one's buying these thinking like, oh, I'm jumping from Apple to Windows because I want to save $150 on a keyboard. That's not a normal decision. So for any of you who want to start a war about that, please keep in mind that's not most people think. But it is a convenience to know that you can go in for $700-800 and get one of 2 types of devices. And at the end of the day, it just becomes, what tool can you best fit your need for work or your need for consumption. So I do like that, the stacking of things, because Apple does seem to nickel and dime people. When they take away the headphone jack, it's like, oh, guess what? We have a dongle, and now we have these new earbuds you can use, and these are headphones to kind of compensate for the things that we took away from you.
Yeah, overall speaking, the ads are pretty great. I'm pretty sure they'll show up on TV like in the middle of a football game one day, and then everyone will be sitting on their cell phone and be like, no, I'm a Mac, no, I'm a PC. And then they'll
Well,
start
and that's
throwing
that's the thing that I
dongles at
find
each other.
interesting. Well, that's the thing I find interesting is that you never really see Apple advertise for their Macs. They advertise for their phones about like flashy colors and dancers, things like that. But it's the product placement. When people see, that Mac or that grayed out symbol or the gray laptop, they know that someone's using a Mac. And they subconsciously know, like, hey, that's a good thing for whatever the product placement is. It's usually when they see like a Surface, particular, even random black laptops from like Lenovo or Dell, they don't really make a difference. But when someone sees a Surface, they're like, oh, that's product placement. No one would ever use that. It's just, I feel like Microsoft or Intel in general, I don't know how they can like portray this in like product placement, but they're going to need to like figure out a way to make it somewhat natural in product placement so people get associated with Intel. They don't think Intel as a chip maker. They think, oh, I have a Windows PC or laptop, and it may be made from a Dell or an HP, and I have a Mac. So it's really hard for these arguments and these ads to go further, where people are going to walk away saying, Intel's my guy. No one's going to say that.
All right, enough about PCs and Intel and Macs and web development. Let's just get into the fun and games, which is Xbox, and the time for our week ahead segment.
Yeah, this is your
So,
favorite section.
yeah, there's a rumor going around that there could be a possible Xbox event next week. I'm not sure if it's 100% happening, but we know that Brad Sams and Paul Theroux and all of the Microsoft watchers, they were talking about a possible Xbox event on March 23rd, and they think the focus will be cloud gaming. And we saw, I know I wrote the piece about Phil Spencer teasing xCloud coming on Windows 10, and he was playing I forgot the game on his Surface Pro X while sitting in the airport. So it looks like we definitely have some big Xbox news coming, if not this week, coming soon.
Yeah, I'm interested to see xCloud finally show up for PC, which I thought would have been their first venture versus smartphone and tablet.
Android, it's only exclusive to Android right
Yeah, I
now.
get that. I get I guess the testing bed for it, but I thought PC again is their bread and butter. In more concrete news, we did write about Xbox's new hire for, I believe, let me make sure I get the title right now. The new director of Xbox Global Partnerships. We have Marcos, I believe, Waltenberg, was just recently hired. He reached out on LinkedIn to kind of let everybody know about the switch. He's coming from 20th Century Fox and more recently Netflix. Has done great things at both companies. Reached a 200 million audience, and I think what his purview so far as we can tell, and we're hoping to speak with him about more details about it, is that he's going to be overseeing brand management and kind of expanding on the brands that Xbox already has. I've already started to speculate that he's going to help bring more entertainment value. Again, for all you gamers out there, I don't mean bring entertainment to the console, but at least associate the brand with things outside of the console. So when you see like someone like The Rock, I think was in one of his more recent ads, was reaching into an Xbox mini fridge to kind of promote his own energy drink. You'll start to see stuff like that. Again, it's not going to affect the gaming. You're not going to have to worry about, pass through on your console or more entertainment apps. I just think it's going to be having Microsoft's entertainment arm become Xbox, and their productivity still be Microsoft 365.
And speaking, we're still continuing on with Xbox, not done yet. Last week, the Xbox wireless headset became available for purchase. If you could find one, that is, because it's currently out of stock at the Microsoft Store and many other retailers. And our Laurent, he was able to get his hands on with one, so he's gonna review it next week. So be sure to stay tuned for that.
Yes. And again, I'm full of predictions. I'm assuming at some point Xbox and Surface are going to merge, and we'll just get the Microsoft headphone, which will allow you to pair between your Xbox and your laptop or your Surface device and things like that, or hopefully an Android phone, similar to all of Apple's, auditory things. So that's one other thing. And I don't know, do you have any hardware that you're going to be looking at this week coming up?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that if you follow me on Twitter, that you saw me tweeting about it. I got a new keyboard from Aukey,
Yes.
which is one of our sponsors. They
I'm
they
super
me-
jealous.
they sent me over they call it the KMG12 mechanical gaming keyboard, which has fancy lights all the way around.
Yeah,
So
the
yeah,
RGB.
we'll be reviewing that next week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And while I'm here, if you like free stuff, you should enter our giveaway
I
because
do.
to
I
sell,
do.
I don't think you qualify
uh,
because it's only for readers. But if you're a reader or you're a viewer, check out our giveaway because we're giving away a 3 months code for Headspace, which is an app that you could use to meditate and cool and calm your head after a long day of work or a long day of school. So that's our cool giveaway. I know we teased it last week, but silly me forgot to publish the post on Monday, and now we're a week late with the giveaway, but it's still there. And check it out. We'll have the link in the description and in the video. And check it out. And we'll be announcing the winners next week.
well, I mean, I think that sums it up. I have some reviews I owe you guys. I have the X12 detachable ThinkPad's answer to the Surface Pro, which, I mean, spoiler alert, it's amazing. It is definitely more than an answer to the Surface Pro in many ways. And then I believe I owe you guys the Lenovo's Chromebook review too, which I have many words to say about that.
Don't reignite our Chrome OS versus
I
Windows
think I
10
might. I
debate.
think I might have to bring that back up again.
Well, I think that said, that pretty much does it. It was a very good podcast. We had our guest. We talked about Windows 10X. We talked about Windows 10. We teased Xbox. We even started a new Mac versus PC debate again. So yeah,
Yeah.
thanks everyone for watching. I'll leave you for your outro as usual.
Yeah, you can. Again, I'm Kareem, your host, and Arif is our world's greatest co-host. I don't think I said it at the top, but if you want more of the two of us in social media, I'm at Mindhead1. You're at
A back turn.
yeah. Please seek us out. Again, if you just want to chit chat, if you have opinions about Mac versus Windows or Windows versus Chrome, please talk to either one of us. And if you want to follow all of the news, all of the stuff that we just talked about the week ahead, please follow us on Microsoft on Twitter as well. And I believe we have a Facebook too, but we're mostly on Twitter.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. We hope to see you again soon. Same
Stay
place, same
safe,
time.
and we'll see you guys on the other side.
Yep.